everyone, how are you doing today? I am Humaira Kabir, but I'm better known as my artist alias Kavayra. I'm an illustrator who works in both traditional and digital media. You can find my works if you want to take a look into what kind of works I do in my Instagram or my Facebook page with the same spelling. Today I'm here to talk about how to portray emotions in digital art. But before I begin, I'd like to show you some works that I've done for the Let's Read Digital Library for the Asia Foundation and HerStories Foundations. These are the works that I have done depicting the life of poet Sufia Kamal. These are all done in watercolor with a tiny bit of ink maybe for the details, but mostly watercolors. Today, the demonstration I will be showing you would not be in watercolors or in traditional media. We're going to go digital for that. This is the final piece of the 5-part illustrations that I have done for the poet Sufia Kamal. Now, let's talk about today's topic, shall we? Today, as I mentioned before, we're going to be working with how to portray emotion in a visual sense, in your drawings, in your comics. In a very simplistic sense, we're going to be working with 5 basic emotions. Let's have a look at some basic emotions, shall we? I think from the top of your head, everyone can at least name happy and sad and angry. But we're also going to be looking at surprised and suspicious. Let's have a look at happy first. If you take a look at this expression, what is the first thing that you register? I think for myself, I'd say the first thing that I register is the uptick of the mouth and the neutral expression, otherwise that. Let's have a look at what makes a face seem happy to us. You'll see usually the brows are slightly raised. The eyes are usually open, and in often cases when you want to exaggerate the happiness or the sadness or any emotion when you want to exaggerate in a drawing, the eyes are often seen sparkling. And of course, the most dominant feature of a happy expression, the mouth is a smiley line. It is ticked upwards and smiling. Let's have a look at sad now, shall we? You will see that the expression when it comes to the eyes and the brows has not really changed. The main difference here is that the mouth goes in the opposite way. It is usually turned down a little bit. If you see the arrows, you'll see that it's turned down, whether the happy expression is turned upwards. Now let's come to angry. This is a little more complex. The mouth, like sadness, is often turned down in an angry expression, but the brows are not as neutral anymore. They're usually coming inwards, like a frowny face. And the eyes, more often than not, they would be a little bit squinty. You see how the top hair is a little bit more smooshed than the other eyes, the neutral eyes? This is very common for an angry expression. Now let's have a look at a surprised emotion. In a surprised expression, it is very common that a mouth would often be depicted in a wide O or an open mouth, and the eyebrows will be raised. If you think of yourself, close your eyes and think of yourself being surprised by something, and then pay attention to your facial muscles. You'll see that your eyebrows are going upwards because that's what we do when we're surprised. And the eyes are often opened a tiny bit wider than the neutral eyes. Now let's have a look at a fun emotion, suspicion. We're often suspicious, aren't we? Let's say you have hidden a piece of cake in your fridge, and then at 3 a.m. in the night you're like, I'm hungry, I should go eat that cake. and you go to the fridge and the cake is gone. And you're like, who could have done this? Who could have betrayed me in such a horrid way? Is it my brother? Is it my sister? Is it mom? And you're suspicious. Who is it that took your precious cake? This is that emotion, suspicion. In a suspicious emotion, often you'll see that one brow is ticked upwards and the other one squints downwards. And the mouth is often set in a frown or a tiny bit downwards on one side usually, and one of the eyes can often be squinted. Of course, you have to understand that these emotions that I have depicted here visually, these are done in a more simplistic comical style, so often it is more exaggerated than real life. In real life, your face muscles could move just a minuscule bit, but here it is more exaggerated to send the emotions clearly across the board to your viewers. So let's have a review, shall we? When it comes to happy, the brows are slightly turned upwards or they're neutral. Eyes are usually wide open, and the most important bit is the face always has a smile on. They're ticked upwards. When it comes to sad, the eyes can still be neutral. The mouth, most importantly, is ticked downwards, and the brows can be slightly furrowed, or the ends of it can slightly come downwards, but they can also stay neutral. In angry, the brows, it is important to make them furrow downwards on the inward side, just like this, and the eyes are often a bit squinty, and the mouth is frowny or turned downwards. When it comes to the surprised face, what do we see? Most important part, the brows. They will be ticked upwards, and the mouth is often open in surprise, like an O, and the eyes can often be a little bit bigger than when they are in the neutral state. Now let's move on to the suspicious bit again. One brow is ticked upwards and one goes a little bit downwards, and one eye is a bit squinty. Just follow your own facial muscles. You can mimic it, and you'll see that when you're suspicious, you do the same thing with your own face. And the mouth is often frowny or a little bit ticked downwards. Now that we have all that down, how about we go into the exercise bit? Let's try to make some faces. Why don't you yourself grab a piece of paper and draw it with us? This is something that I have previously prepared for this exercise itself. This itself is a very neutral happy face. How can we turn this very neutral happy face into other emotions? Let's work on that, shall we? How about we turn this face into a sad face to begin with? Let's remember what we talked about earlier. When it's a sad face, the eyes can be neutral, but the mouth is going to be turned downwards. Now at this point, this face could go either ways. With the eyebrows only, we could depict it in two ways. If we make the eyebrows like this, a little bit turned downwards, this is a sad face, very obviously. But if we make the eyebrows different and make them ticking downwards on the inner side, the same face becomes an angry face. This is how important the eyebrows are when you're trying to depict emotions on a face. Especially if your art style is simple, eyebrows will play a very important part. See, just by changing the eyebrows, we have completely changed the mood of the piece. Take a look at this one, an angry face. But now, it's a sad face. So, let's go back and review these three again. This is a neutral happy face with neutral brows and the upwards mouth. with a downwards mouth. This is an angry face with the brows facing downwards on the inner side. But this is a sad face when the brows face down on the outer side. Fun, right? Now, let's go with something else. How about we try a surprised face now? Remember what we said about the surprised face? So we're going to try that now. Let's go through all the options of the surprised face. The mouth will be opened in surprise. It could be just a little bit like this, or it could be very surprised like this. The eyes are usually a bit more open than the other faces. And the brows are also usually a bit higher up than the other faces. To add an extra dimension, you could of course always add some sparkle in the eye. I think that always brings up the surprised factor, like wowed. So what do we see in the surprised face? Eyes wider than usual, the brows are tipped upwards, and the mouth is slightly open. Now let's work with the last face, the suspicious face. What do we remember of the suspicious face? The mouth is going to be turned a little bit downwards, usually on one side. The eyes, one will be tipped upwards and the other a little downwards. Now, to make this extra suspicious, we can always make the eye a bit squinty, just the one side. Now she is extra suspicious. But of course, even if you don't do that, with the brows like this, one pointing downwards and one pointing upwards, and the mouth in a frowny line, you can still very easily understand that this is a suspicious face. Now, if you've gotten all of those down, why don't we work with a new one? How about a confident face? Can you try to think about how a confident face would look? I think usually there would be a big smile, but rather than just a plain smile like this, rather than a plain smile like this, usually when people are trying to give a confident smirk, the smile is tipped upwards on one side, like this. And the eyebrows are usually either plain or they can be a little bit tipped downwards, like this. Or sometimes it even follows the same rule as the suspicious face. Very confident, this girl. So this brings us to the end of a simple introduction on how to depict emotions in your drawings. Now, always remember the golden rule. If you are stuck on how to depict one emotion, even if you don't go out to the internet and Google exercises for it, which is always very helpful, since we have the knowledge of the world at our fingertips, we should be able to use it to improve ourselves. But if you're unwilling to do that, if you only want to do life studies, you can always just take a simple mirror and look in the mirror and try to mimic the expression in your face. Whatever you see on the face, pay close attention to yourself. Whether it's the movement of the brow or the lips or the mouth, that is what you're going to have to depict on your canvas as well, in a more stylized, in a more simplistic way maybe, but the basic principles remain the same. I hope you enjoyed this short tutorial. Please draw your own versions and show me how you want to depict your emotions in your drawings, and please post them below. I'd love to see them. Thank you for being here with me today. Bye!